I have been working in DevOps for the last 3 years officially, and I have done a couple of internships in my past. It was really difficult for me to get out of the shadow of my own college. Since a lot of people have seen that their college name helps a lot to them. For my instance, it was not the case. I had to start from very scratch. I got to know of a very interesting concept, hackathons. As a college kid, I can go with my friends, stay overnight at some other place, have food, and build something. It was very intriguing to me. That when you do DevOps, you get to see a bird's eye view of the entire company. That thing as an engineer is so intriguing to learn.
What are the things needed to get an interview for a DevOps role like GitLab?
So GitLab was very new to me. I understood the product. I saw how good it is. Back in 2022 was my first break in GitLab. I had more offers lined up, but I was very psyched for GitLab.
Do you feel like DevOps is a career that has potential and growth in the next few years in the AI era?
We are living in a time of a lot of uncertainties. This is my take. It might be wrong after 5 years.
Hey everyone, and I hope you all are doing really well. So, today we have a very special guest with us, and he's not just a guest, he's also a really good friend of mine who will be sharing his journey from a tier 2 college to getting a remote job in this AI era. And I'll leave the introduction up to Pratik. So, hey Pratik, first of all, welcome to the podcast. It's really nice having you here.
Hi, Shreya. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a great experience talking to you after so many time, so much time. It has been great the last couple of years working at GitLab. Coming to my introduction, I'm Pratik Singh. I'm a distribution engineer at GitLab. What does it means is that my team and I work towards shipping out the packages for GitLab, the Helm images for GitLab, whatever is a concern that helps customer to install GitLab on their instances. That is what my team is behind. I have been working in DevOps for the last 3 years officially, and I have done a couple of internships in my past. And yeah, that's all about me.
Great, great. So today, like Pratik, firstly we will start with your college journey. So can you tell a little bit about which college you did your graduation from, and what kind of college it was?
So I did my graduation from a private college in Bangalore, not a good college. It's called the Anand College of Engineering. Now it has been 3 years. They can't do anything to me. So it's not a very good college, not in the terms of education. I think everyone, when it comes to any college student I have talked to, they always feel that their college is bad. I think when it comes to my experience, very particularly at that point, COVID was going around and AI was still not a thing. So at that point, it was really difficult for me to get out of the shadow of my own college because for a lot of places, a lot of people have seen that their college name helps a lot to them. For my instance, it was not the case, and I had to start from very scratch and build my way up to it.
Hmm.
So that has been my experience around college. But leaving that aside, how did I come into the IT aspect was that I'm an electronics engineer, an EC engineer in front of you. I have no idea what I have learned in the last 4 years. But in the first 6 months, I think the first semester, I was very clear that electronics is not something that I want to pursue. I've tried multiple things. I tried, Arduino boards, Raspberry Pis, and everything. It is not, I'm not saying anything bad about electronics. It's a very good of a space. I was interested in my youth. That's why I joined as an electronics engineer. But when I tried it myself in the first 6 months and then COVID hit, so I just realized that it's a blocker and maybe it's not the right field for me. You grow with time, and at that point, I realized that yes, this might not be the thing for me. So as everyone's IT journey starts, I started with the programming language. It was C++ at that at point that I started with. So I was doing a lot of C++, a lot of hacker rank, code forces, code chef, all of this I was introduced to. I was very lucky that I got into a coding club in my college called Point Blank, and that is where I got introduced to multiple aspects of IT. That there's web development, machine learning, compiler engineering, and whatnot. uh, I think that's around the time when the first wave was about to hit of COVID. And I got to know of a very interesting concept for me was hackathons. And when I was in college, at that time, Devfolio, if you remember, Devfolio had very picky screening for a hackathon, that you have to submit your resume, and once you get selected, then you have to go and attend. As a college kid, it was such an intriguing idea to me that I can go with my friends, stay overnight at some other place, have food, and build something. It was very intriguing to me. But at that point, I was getting rejected by Devfolio every day, every hackathon. And that was an ego hurt at that point, and I just realized that competitive programming is not going to be enough, and I have to learn better things. I started with web development, as a lot of people do. I did front end development, a lot of front end development. I do not like it, but everyone starts that way. I had it with back end, and at that point I was like struggling to get into hackathons, and obviously everything went online by that time. So I just started to learn cloud, because once you have done front end and back end, you don't know what's the next step, because there is a saturation point that you say that, hey, I have learned the basics of back end. I'm not saying I completed back end completely, I became an expert. No, it was not the case. It was just that the basics were complete at that point. I understood what a logging architecture looks like, what does an API do, how to build an API, host your API. I think that was around the time that I did my very first internship. I was still in my first year, and I did my first internship at a very small startup. And over there, I started to learn cloud. I got interested in that aspect, and I was still learning cloud. That I got into a scholarship from Shoes. I remember an academy or Shoes something. So that's where I got introduced to DevOps. So Katie Kamanji, she's one of the person from whom I have like officially learned DevOps at the start. So I started DevOps at that aspect. I was still learning, but in my entire career, if I say my biggest breakthrough has been the Just Pay internship. So, and it's very interesting of a story how I got into Just Pay. So I was very desperate of a college kid, very desperate. And what I used to do was that, once I have done all of my chores and all of my to do for the day, obviously it was COVID era, so we all were stuck at home. Um, what I did was I was applying. So just before sleeping for 1 hour, I used to sit down and just apply for internship. Just apply, nothing else. Just I had my resume ready and I used to apply. And how I got into JustPay was, so if you scroll down to the JustPay website, I'm not sure if they still have it, but 4 years back they had, for 5 years back, oh my god, 5 years back they had that contact us email ID. And I was so desperate, I contacted them on that hey, this is my resume, and would you love that? I would love to work for you guys. I was very lucky. I got the opportunity with the internship, sorry, the interviews. The interviews went for like 1 month or something, multiple rounds and everything, but I broke into the SRE space. It was a lot of new things, because DevOps is a very big subset and SRE is like firefighting. And that was my first experience right off the bat, that I'm in a, because in a smaller startup, it's still fine. At that point, I had only worked with like 2, 3 people. But in JustPay, we were a team of 30 SREs. Everyone is like very good, legendary people. And I was amazed at, oh my God, what a cutting edge of a technology are we working on? Because at JustPay, whenever you make payments from a lot of companies, if you use Swiggy, if you use Google Pay, they use JustPay at the background. So at that point, I got to understand that, oh my God, the work that I'm doing has an actual world impact. Because if suppose Google Pay, I'm not sure if you guys remember it, but at the very start, Google Pay had a lot of issues, that at the very beginning when Google Pay had started, that people did not prefer Google Pay because there were some problems happening. We were the people who got notified about it, and we were working around it. So it was very good of an experience for me, and I just started to love DevOps right there, that this is what I want to do for a job. Because if you are a developer, again, it's a very subjective thing. I would not say someone, or I don't want to what is it, influence someone to get into DevOps. I'm telling my aspect, that when you do DevOps, you get to see a bird's eye view of the entire company. Wherever I have worked after that, or wherever I'm working right now, I know the exact landscape, how the product works. That thing as an engineer is so intriguing to learn every day. My right now also a good chunk of my effort goes into learning GitLab more and more. I want to learn how does it work, how does every aspect of other things are working.
Hmm.
And everything comes together, and it's so beautiful to see at the bigger picture. So that's how I got into DevOps. And then again, I did multiple. The COVID era was there, and I did just internships back to back, back to back. I went into GitHub after that. Then I worked for HackerRank after that. Then I worked for two, three more companies were there, which I just joined and understood the culture and left. Then officially, I went to Japan for an internship, and then finally I joined Nasdaq. I worked for Nasdaq for nearly 2 years, and then I got into GitLab. So that's all of my story summarized in the last 5 minutes.
Awesome, awesome. So, just to summarize what you have shared with us right now, so
Yeah.
you explored front end, back end, full stack, all cloud computing, and everything. And out of all these explorations that you did, your interest was inclining more towards DevOps, right? And you also
Yes.
mentioned that you first worked in Just. I think Just Pay was an internship, or was it a full time role?
It was an internship.
Okay. So in which year did you did this internship?
I did it back in 2021, and the internship got completed in 2022. So at the end of 2021, it started and got
Hmm.
over at 2022.
Okay. No, no. So I'm asking which year you were in
Oh,
college.
so I was in my second year at that point.
Awesome. So, generally, Pratik, in college, students are mostly trying out DSA because that is that is the round that every company takes for every role. So, did you like also explore DSA, and did you thought of like doing it properly so that you can use it for preparing for interviews?
One thing, Shreya, I don't usually talk about it, but let me
Hmm.
make this clear. I have done DSA for a good number of years. I have done competitive programming. I think at one point I was 1100 or 1200 something rating on Code Forces. I have done Hacker Rank a lot. I was lucky enough that at one point I joined it also, but I have done Hacker Rank. I have done Code Forces, Code Shift, everything I did, even lead code during my final years and all. I would definitely say that no matter what kind of job you're going for, data systems and algorithm is one thing that you should learn if you are an engineer. It will help you out because when after a while I also got into machine learning. I did that for a while, and I also have tried blockchain app for some hackathons. All of this does come up because those are the fundamentals. How much do you want to grind? It is up to you. At one point, I realized that for my job role, getting very pro at something like as complex as dynamic programming or trees or binary trees, these were not much asked to me. So I just focused on the basics of like what is that called, turbo sort and weighted sorting and all of these algorithms. So these things, the window shifting techniques, all of these is what I was focusing on.
Hmm.
But this comes after a couple of interviews. It's not like that right off the bat I was just you cannot optimize this. That is what I would like to say. If you are doing DSA, you have to do it end to end at the first. Once you start giving interviews, or once you have decided that I want to pursue this prospect of the IT domain, at that point you should start to be optimized that okay, maybe I can focus a little bit less on trees. I can let linked list go off my list. I don't care about circular linked list. But it will come later down the stages. If anyone who is listening today, if you are in your first year or second year, I seriously urge you, go and read about do competitive programming, do DSA. Even today, if I give an interview, I am asked about DSA.
Right. That is very true, Pratik. I mean, no matter which domain of software engineering you are in, DSA is the foundation on which all the other domains are built on. And definitely, I mean, it is something one should know, and like whether they're going to use it in their future career or not. But it is a very good, it sets a foundation for your software engineering career. So, Pratik, like for your DevOps interviews, was there any DSA round? And if there was, like, what was the difficulty of the rounds?
So it depends company to company share. It was not like I can say that every company did not take a DSA interview. Most of the companies that I joined at some point did take a DSA interview. Even the Japanese company took the DSA interviews. Even HackerRank took one, and Nasdaq even took one. Coming to difficulties, because I was going for the specific roles of DevOps, they knew that I'm not getting in as a software developer right off the bat. So if I have to, maybe I'm a little bit outdated with the CP terms, but if I'm recalling it correctly, the code forces had level B questions, level A, B, C, D when you gave CP contests. So I would say that for me, I have not faced any question that would I would rate more than B. Every question was either A or B. C, very rarely I have seen. Like I went for an AI company a couple of months back. They
Hmm.
asked me something a little bit trickier that I would say would because over there I had to come up with a recursive solution. But usually it's just A level or B level questions that comes up to me. But then again, I am very specific to the job role that I want to go for now.
Got it. So can we say that like medium level DSA questions would be
Yeah,
expected
yeah,
for a DevOps
definitely.
role, right?
Medium is what is expected out of you.
Hmm.
And I would also just little bit I will tell over here that now with the AI trend, what I have seen in interviews, it's not always about the correct syntax or writing the perfect code which actually compiles.
Hmm.
Any interviewer, even when I am taking interviews, I am supposed to see that whether they were able to crack the logic or not. It's not about the exact code anymore.
Right, right, absolutely. I mean, as an engineer, you should be able to come up with some approach and you should be able to communicate clearly to the interviewer because it also shows how you are going to collaborate with them if you get to work with them, right?
Definitely.
Uh, okay, so like coming back to your community experience. So, like I saw your LinkedIn and you have been part of AWS community, Google Developers Group. Like, can you tell us, like, when did you started, like, getting involved in communities? How did you came to know about them? And how did communities help you professionally?
So, very first thing, I think everything for me goes back to the COVID era. The COVID era kid, I was stuck at my home. I had nothing much to do. And, I always, it's a very small, very old tweet of mine where I used to write all of my to-do list or whatever I'm doing today on a calendar. And one of my friend came to my home during COVID and he said that, hey, why don't you just tweet it? Like you do the 100 days of code challenge and all of those things. That is how I got introduced to Twitter. And when once I started to do it, I started to interact with people who were on the same path and were doing the same kind of stuff.
Hmm.
That is the point where I discovered about that. Okay, communities do exist. In my college, I was a part of a community. Over there, I had immense learning to every senior of Point Blank whoever watches this. Thank you so much. If you were not there, I wouldn't be here. So I had a community experience right in my college. But coming to the wider communities, I think Twitter helped me first. And then I started to follow the right people and I started to look into, I got involved in some Delhi college group. I think that was GDSC something, some college. And then I realized that, okay, something like this does exist. And when COVID restrictions were revoked and we were back in the town, I got to know that okay, Bangalore has a lot of communities to offer. And I just attended at one point, Shreya, I was so into community. I was attending almost every event. It was not about the swags or it was not about the talks. It was more about meeting and networking with the people. I remember this that when I used to go to community events, the Microsoft event or whether it was a Google event or anything, I used to go listen to people, like stand in those circles, listen to people, and whatever keywords I used to hear, right? That okay, someone is talking about Kubernetes. Okay, what is Kubernetes? I used to write it down, and then okay, someone mentioned Kafka today. Okay, Kafka, and I used to go back home and research about it. That okay, what is it? Is it something that I should learn? I remember I got introduced to Datadog this way. That someone was talking in a community about Datadog. I'm like, okay, what is this? And then I went back home. So for me, a community helped me in that way that it inspired me a lot. I met a lot of good people, a lot of good mentors in that aspect, and yeah, they helped me a lot. I would say. Again, coming back to the OG Vivek Sridhar sir from Microsoft, he's always been one of my mentors. Harsh Bandhan Mishra, Khushbudi, all of these people have helped me in various stages of life, and I have learned a lot from them.
Awesome, awesome. So Twitter was your main starting point that helped you in getting to know about other communities, and that's how you got involved. So did communities help you in getting like opportunities and interviews?
So, Shreya, when it comes to a software developer job role, whether it is DevOps or something, I think we are much more focused on the skills rather than your network. So, first of all, I would very clearly say that not a lot of jobs that I did got converted because of community. It was just that when I was giving the interviews, people already had heard about me. And
Hmm.
it takes a couple of months, a couple of years that the butterfly effect comes in. And
Hmm.
then you start getting job offers from across the community,
Hmm.
but it is very less, and I wouldn't say that it has very big of an impact in getting a job. Maybe now that it has been 5 6 years that I have been doing this, it does help. If I say tomorrow, I say that when I was leaving Nasdaq, I remember this. I already had offer letter from GitLab, but I posted about that. I'm leaving Nasdaq, and I did see that a lot of people approached me for to get me hired, but it takes time. I will not say that it is a thing that will just instantly go. You go to one event and you'll say that, okay, I got 5 job listings today. It does not work like that.
Right, right, definitely. But it does help you in, knowing people who might be working in the companies that you are aspiring to, work in someday, and that might help you with referrals. So, did that happen with you also?
I don't think I have asked for referrals, obviously,
Mm.
but I did not get converted in those things. I
Okay.
will tell you a very small story. I went to a Docker event which happened in the JFrog office in Belandu.
Hmm.
I met the HR of JFrog over there, and I made a friend in JFrog over there. That guy who I made friend with, obviously they wanted to hire me at JFrog at that point. It did not pan out. It was some work from office condition and my college is not allowing something. And just the good story or the round circle story is that when I joined GitLab, the friend who I made in the JFrog office, he was also working for GitLab. And then we're like, hey, what? Okay, nice. And now, even if he has left GitLab, we are still in contact and we still try to catch up. So these all things do help, and we get to know that, okay, what is happening on his company, what is happening in my company, and we do
Hmm. Hmm.
learn about tech and we talk about it. So that kind of experience is much more better for me than just getting hired.
Definitely. I mean, that's the main advantage that you get when you are in communities. You get to connect with like-minded people, and tech community is so small that you don't even know like who you would end up working with few years down the line. So yes, I definitely agree with that. So moving back to your community and your so community experience we have discussed. Now coming back to your open source experience. So I saw on your LinkedIn that you have done a GitHub externship, and I believe that was like one of the very first pilot programs that started back in 2021. So can you tell us like how did you came to know about this opportunity? How did you apply it? And how was your internship experience? What was the stipend, if you're comfortable in sharing that? And like, how did that help you further in growing as an engineer, as a DevOps
Okay.
engineer?
So let me start with open source first. So open source was something that was introduced by one of my college mentors
Hmm.
in my college community. He told me that something like this existed, and he was doing Google. Okay, so he was doing Google Summer of Code at that point. So I got to know that, okay, open source does exist. How did I get started? How did I get to learn all of these things? I think Eddie comes into my mind. He was one of the person at that point. Hacktoberfest was a big thing, and we everyone was crazy about it. So with the help of the videos of Eddie, I got into GitHub, like open source aspect. I started to contribute very small contributions. Coming to GitHub externship, how did it happen was that in 2021, the program started and a couple of my college seniors got in. And with them, I got to know that, okay, something like this does exist. And I think at that point, I was giving my interviews at JustPay. So when the next time the applications came in, the process was similar to what happens with Google Summer of Code. They used to release projects. You have to submit a proposal. Once your proposal gets accepted, there will be a couple of interviews, and then you get the offer. So for me, I applied for a community called Litmus Kiosk. like that was the project for which I applied. I made the proposal, and there were two rounds of interview. I got in. I was there for 3 months. The stipend for GitHub externship for everyone in their own projects were different. So it depended on the organization. So I cannot upfront say that for my organization it was this much or for other it was this much. It depended on the organization, despite what happens at Google Summer of Code. But at GitHub externship, that is what used to happen. My experience was good. So at that point I was at JustPay, okay, we were doing DevOps, and our whole perspective was that we have to make things up and running. Whereas Litmus Chaos is a project that is about chaos engineering. The whole purpose or the whole idea is to break stuff. And that was a very different perspective for me to see how infrastructure works. And that was very, intriguing to me. I got to learn, I wrote a couple of Golang modules. I get a chance to work with some people in the community and like in the project maintainers and all. That was good experience, and I think that habit of open source just stayed with me. Whenever I see something which is interesting to me or something that I think that I can help out, if there is some issue on some project, I just say that, hey, I just take this up and I'll get this done. So that habit stayed. I think that was also true for GitLab. I was contributing to GitLab very, very rarely, but yeah, I used to contribute. But that has been my experience with GitHub extension.
Awesome, awesome. So, I mean, from GitHub externship, you like officially entered the open source world. Can we say that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So my biggest effort or my biggest try for open source was Google Summer of Code. And I think you don't know this, but I'll tell you.
Hmm.
I applied for Google Summer Code even for Circuit Wars.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And I remember this when I was trying for Circuit Wars, you had already been a contributor, and I have seen your commits, I have seen what you have worked on. So that is one of the reasons that I knew you already.
Oh, okay. You are right. Like I never knew like he also
Yes.
contributed to Circuit Verse. But yeah, I mean I mentored for GSOC I think back in 2021.
Yes.
So
So in 22, I was applying for Google Server of Code, and that's why
mhm,
I knew your work and what you have done for Circuit was. So I was going for two organizations. One was Litmus Kiosk again, and
mhm.
the my next one was Litmus Kiosk. Sorry, Circuit was.
Circuit Verse. Okay, awesome, awesome. Okay, so now, Pratik, coming to your role at GitLab. So I know you also wrote a article on dev.to about like how you started contributing way back in 2022. You also tried interviewing there, and I think you got rejected. Can you talk like how you came to know about GitLab, how you got how you got the interview opportunity, and especially for a DevOps role. Like, I think our viewers would be very interested to know like what are the things needed to get an interview for a DevOps role in a remote company like GitLab.
So first of all, let me make this clear. I'm not speaking as a GitLab employee as of now. I am speaking purely as a DevOps engineer.
Okay.
So when I was working for all the other firms, most of the firms that I had worked for were using GitHub. So GitLab was very new to me. I did not understand what the product is, why people are using it. I always had the sense that, this exists, why do this exist? A very common thing. But I was working for one of the firm where we were trying to migrate out of somewhere to GitLab. And at that point, I understood the product. I saw how good it is and why a lot of DevOps engineers actually prefer to use GitLab. So this was all happening like for some freelance company that I was working for. And at that point, I got to learn about GitLab, and I saw the product. I obviously started to love it, and then I started to apply for the teams in GitLab. So back in 2022 was my first break in GitLab. So I had already worked for JustPay, GitHub, and HackerRank at that point. I was still in HackerRank, if I remember correctly. Yes, I was still at HackerRank at that point. I had more offers lined up, but I was very psyched for GitLab. So I gave the interviews. I think I went for like fourth round. Till the fourth round, I went in the interview, and then I was going for this build team in GitLab. I remember this very clearly that just my HR round was left. back in 2022. And I was very psyched that because, HR round is something that after that you have been in multiple companies or multiple interviews, you just realize that HR round is not something that, usually goes wrong. I will just say that it usually does not go wrong. So I was very psyched that, okay, maybe now I'm getting into GitLab. That is back in 2022 towards the end. And what happened, my HR round got delayed for a couple of days. And then I got to know that they hired someone who got laid off Twitter. Like you remember when
Yeah.
Elon Musk did the acquisition, so a lot of engineers were laid off. So they went for someone in that team. And the obsession, Shreya, just stayed with me for years and years. Since 2022, I was applying for a lot of roles in GitLab. I went to Japan, I was still applying. I came back to India, I was still applying. I joined my full-time job, I was still applying. And I got the interviews again, something here or there, but nothing I made till the final rounds. I remember this very clearly. I was leaving for Seattle at that point. I had a conference over there. And just before my flight was taking off, I got an email again from GitLab that, hey, we would like to interview you. And the special part was back in 2022, I was going for the build team, and build team was the one that had emailed me that we would want to take your interview. I'm like, okay, this time, whatever happens, I'm not going to screw it up. I came back to India. I gave the interviews. The interviews stretched for like 2.5 to 3 months. For my team, it was a long time.
Hmm.
And finally, just before the end of 2024, I joined GitLab in the same build team. As of now, I work in the same team. It has been 1.5 years, and it's a very beautiful circle of my life that I'm very grateful for.
Awesome. I mean, I can completely understand what you're trying to, share here because I've also gone through a similar thing. I've tried to interview with GitLab for like multiple years. First time was back in 2024. Then again, it was in 2025. So I completely understand like, your journey and everything. So can you tell or can you share like how many rounds of interviews like total you went through? What were the expectations out of each round, and like what was the timeline that your interview went for?
So first of all, to anyone who is listening today, I will try to make sure that whenever this video goes live, I will post the link of the article in the same video because there might be some details that I'm missing right now. But I had written an article then and there at that point in 2024, which is very much detailed, and you'll find all the details over there. In summary, I'll start over here.
Hmm.
First of all, if we are going for GitLab, anyone who is watching this, if you want to get hired into GitLab, please try to go for a specific role which suits your profile. If you go for a generic role, it's very high chances that you will get rejected. I'm not talking about, people getting like profile frozen and all. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that if you go for the right profile, you will get your resume will get selected. And now let's just say by instance, at one point during my interviews, I was talking to one of my colleague who is now my colleague teammate. He was taking my interview, and we were just having the conversation, and he asked me that, okay, you have any questions? And I asked him that, what do you do at GitLab? The same question which a lot of people ask me. And he said to me that, Pratik, I do the same thing that you do at NASDAQ. It's almost the same thing. So you understand that I was very much aligned to the role that I am working here already. So once your resume gets shortlisted, you first get an HR interview. It will be like an hour interview. You will be told about the role, told about the company, told about your like a range of compensation and what team you'll be working on and whatnot. After this, you go, depends. It depends from team to team. But for me, I will tell you, I had first of all uh, uh, the assignment round. So what happens in an assignment round is that you are given a couple of issues. I'm invited to a GitLab issue, and there is a 90-minute call. The expectation is that in that 90 minutes, you'll be talking with your teammates. There will be 2 3 people helping you out, and you have to go through the issue. You can go through the repository. You can use any AI at that point when I was giving the interviews. The AI tools were not that smart, but I was asked that you can use any tool that you want. The whole focus was that they wanted to check that if there is an issue, can I come up with a solution for it or not? The ask was never that you solve it right here, right now. The ask was that you just propose a solution. So in 90 minutes, you get like 45 minutes for each issue. After that call, you get 48 hours to actually make MRs on the for the particular issue. So whatever you have said in the 90 minutes, you have to actually execute it. Again, the expectations in that round is not that you actually get the right solution. It is not that you get it merged at the perfect solution. If I'm telling about my condition, like my situation, what had happened for one of the MR, I was very correct and I had the exact answer for it, and the MR got merged eventually. For the second MR, I think there were some build problems on my local system. So I had the code changes ready. The mentors were like my interviewers agreed to my changes, but because it was not getting build and the CI was failing something in the 2 days time period, I couldn't complete it. So that was like second most difficult round in my opinion. Once you go through this round, you know what your team works at, you know the tech stack, and you have a very good understanding that what you will be doing at GitLab. Even in other teams also, I think there are similar rounds in which very upfront you will be made clear that what your expectations as an engineer is. The second round is with usually with your manager. This is kind of a behavioral and technical round, both for me at least it was both of it. So I was asked some technical questions, some behavioral questions. It is an hour long, and usually you get to know your manager and get to know the team. But the expectations, I can't actually say what were the exact expectations. They were just trying to, look that if I am the right engineer for them or not. The second round, the next round after that was a peer interview round. The peer interview round was actually interesting in my case because I got to talk to the same people who interviewed me back in 2022. So I was like, hi, hello, how are you? How has been the last 2 years of your life? And then we had, it was more of a behavioral round. We talked, it was more about situations that, okay, in that situation, how did you act? Or can you give up an instance where how you reacted or resolved this issue? In the article, you will find much more apt examples I had put down.
Hmm.
But that interview is very, very good because you get to know your team as well. It's not always like a Viva. They also talk, they also share the stories. And that is the interview where I was saying that my teammate told that, I do the same thing what you do at NASDAQ. After this comes the most difficult round in my whole experience. I remember this very clearly. It was a system design round, and I was not at all prepared for it. Being very clear, there was something on my personal end. So my nephew was just born a couple of days before, and I had this system design round.
Okay.
So okay, I had to get the interview, and I was like, okay, fine, fine, I'll manage somehow.
Hmm.
And that round, Shreya, I can tell you, it was like 90 minutes long, if I'm wrong, maybe, but it felt like an eternity. Honestly, it felt like an eternity. I still work with that person who took my interview,
Hmm.
and I still ask him that what was about that round. But the system design round is very not complicated.
Hmm.
A system design round and system design interview in general are very open-ended. So if you are preparing for GitLab, be prepared for this round. If you clear this, I can assure you there is nothing left beyond that you will not be able to crack. So when I remember this, when I got the email that I have cleared the system design round, it was then and there that I told my mom that, Mom, I'm getting into GitLab now. Like now at this point, there's no stopping. Then I had the HR discussions, the compensation discussion, the joining date, because I had a notice period at NASDAQ and I was not in mood to leave NASDAQ at that point. So it was still not a thing. I was just going for GitLab. And then the notice period kicked in and all of the offer letter and everything. It takes a couple of referrals, it takes. So you will have to contact your previous employers, not necessarily the current one, but
Hmm.
the previous ones.
Hmm.
So the background verifications and all of these things takes time. Once all of this is done, you get onboarded into GitLab. The notice period, GitLab is very happy for a 60 days or 90 days notice period. Depends on the team again. But for me, it was 90 days or something. And I honestly took a break for like 3 weeks or something that I had already left NASDAQ and I was not even joined at GitLab. So I took a fairly 20-25 days off.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was my entire process at GitLab.
Wow. So, I mean, that seems like a lot of rounds. I'm guessing around 5 to 7 rounds.
I think my interviews went for like 3 months. It started in March and I got the final offer letter in July because even the offer letter got delayed by for some reasons.
Hmm.
But yeah, it went for like 3 months for me. For other people, I have seen it has also got completed in 1.5 months.
Hmm.
But yeah, for me, it was around 3 months.
Okay, wow, that's a huge timeline. But yeah, I mean, everything is good now. You got the offer finally after multiple attempts, and that is a really good thing. So now, like, I want to understand, like, you are in a DevOps role, and like, how much AI do you use in your day-to-day life, especially because we are moving more towards, agentic AI, and we are handing off. I think we have almost handed off the coding part to AI agents. So, how are you using AI in your day-to-day life? Can you share that?
Let me first start with telling you this, Shreya, that for the last 5 years since my just my internships, uh, everything that a DevOps engineer does on a daily basis is to automate stuff. Our whole purpose of life is that we automate everything that is there that we do on a daily basis, so that on holidays or something we don't get trouble. That is the you know dreamland of a DevOps engineer, that everything gets automated. Sadly, it has not come to that yet. How it affects me on a day-to-day life in my job as of now, AI, it helps a lot of automations. It has been very helpful for me to just come up online, see, okay, what has happened over the weekend, what is the summary of this incidents or something like that. All those, like if there has been a very long discussion, it summarizes it very well. It tells me that, okay, these are the next steps to resolve. If there are multiple logs, so if you work in a production environment, there are a plethora of logs that comes to your way. Out of that all logs, it is very easy to tell me that, okay, this is the exact line where something failed and maybe you should change that. It does help me in all of that. But when it comes to some very specific problems, I do notice myself that no, I still have to dig in myself. I have to get my hands dirty, get into the logs, and then make sense, because sometimes the failure log does come after a time, but the failure happened way above, and then you have to make sense of it. So at that aspect, I think is still a little far for me, but on a day-to-day basis, it's very helpful for me to come up with small solutions, small things to automate stuff. If I have to make a CI job to do XYZ, I just say, hey, just write the CI job, and it does it. Now I don't have to worry about it. Earlier, I had to write it from scratch, the bash script from scratch, and then try it out. So that has been very helpful. But there is still a space that I understand that AI is lacking, and that's where our job exists. So
Okay, so I know I missed asking this question earlier, so I'll probably put this in the before this question.
yeah.
So, what does a DevOps engineer do? And also, I noticed that your role at GitLab is distribution system engineer.
Hmm.
Are these two roles the same thing, or do they differ in any aspect?
So again, in the IT industry, I have always said this: the name of roles can vary from different companies to companies. Some companies have software developer SD1, SD2. Some people have a member of technical staff one, member of technical staff two. I remember you have been in those companies. Then again, coming to GitLab, it is like associate, and then there is senior and this and that. So names might change, but work stays the same mostly. As a DevOps engineer or as a distribution engineer, my work is mainly around infrastructure and CI/CD pipelines. That is what always the focus has been and still is. Maybe for me at distribution engineer, the infrastructure part is little limited because we have some dedicated operations teams that take care of the infrastructure. For me, my work is more on the CI/CD pipeline. So uh, for GitLab, we ship for every operating system and for every architecture, we have to ship packages. So we have multiple pipelines that runs throughout the day, throughout nights that we are building GitLab, because we are again on a continuous deployment model as well. So every time the packages are getting built, every time there are some failures that comes up, and we have to go and fix that. So the work of DevOps and distribution engineer is not much different, I would say. It depends from a firm to firm. It's more about CI/CD pipelines, and it is more about the infrastructure. In my case, infrastructure is a little less as of now, but then again, there are some tickets on my issue task as of now that I have to optimize something on the infrastructure. So it does not matter much.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So, I mean, with AI writing the code, at least handling the execution part of code, uh, I mean, in the next 5 years at least, how do you see like the career of a DevOps engineer growing? I mean, so let's say if some student is like trying to get into DevOps in college and they are like, trying to build a foundation on that domain. So, do you feel like that would be helpful for them like 5 years down the line? I know like 5 years is a long amount of time in the tech world, everything can change. But you also mentioned that AI right now is helping you with just small tasks. But when some complex task comes to you, I mean, you have to like manually look into the task and try to figure out a solution. So, do you feel like DevOps is a career that has some potential and growth in the next few years in the AI era?
Uh, See, we are living in a time of a lot of uncertainties. We are not sure where it will be tipping for anyone as of now. It can change the life of a teacher, it can change the life of a lawyer, it can change the life of an engineer as well. Uh, this is my take. It might be wrong after 5 years. Okay. So I have been a very big fan of reading modern history. I'm not very much interested in reading the history of 1700s or 1800s, but I do go often back and read the history of 2000, 2005, 2010. So these things which happened in the last couple of decades are much more possible to come back to us. Why I'm bringing this up is because in the last 2 decades, if I'm talking, if I'm saying that, just taking a time span of 2006 to till now, DevOps has changed a lot. It looked very different back in 2006. In 2006, there was no concept such as Kubernetes. There was not much concept of cloud. Everything was a bash script. Now, now that it has evolved, a lot of tools have comes up. There are more than 200 tools in DevOps today. But the task and the idea behind everything still is that, hey, we have to build reliable, optimized systems, which will keep on happening, what I'm hoping in the next 5 years as well. How much and what would the task look like might differ. As of now, we are optimizing compute systems. Maybe after a couple of years, we will be optimizing AI tokens. We'll be focusing. I think a lot of companies currently are doing that.
Hmm.
That we have to stop hallucinations. We have to monitor hallucinations. At the end of the day, if I have to wrap it in a DevOps aspect, it is just something running inside a box. I don't care what that software is. There is a concept called as Docker in Dockers and containers when you work in DevOps. So, in my perspective, everything I see as a container, that everything, whatever the tech is, whatever the software is, it is running inside a container. I have to make sure that in that isolated environment, I have to run it in the most optimized way. 5 years down the line, right now, I do read about the memory layer of AI. It has been a very interesting space. It is evolving. If
Hmm.
you see, it's not very different from what has happened in the last 2 decades. People were trying to fix S3 buckets. People were trying to fix SQL databases. That's why non-SQL, no SQL came into picture, right? Time-based databases and a lot of databases that comes up. It's not like MySQL was not doing that already. It was just that the need and the requirements changed. Same, if I have to say, in the AI era, DevOps and SRE would look a little different 5 years down the line, but it would still be very relevant to understand bash scripts, to understand computer, mainly Linux systems,
Hmm.
to how the Linux systems work, how the kernels work, how networks work, how certificates work. I think a lot of places you can blindly go and say AI to work. But when it comes to infrastructure, that is one thing that a lot of companies have still their restrictions that no, AI. should not touch anything infrastructure, because if the machines goes down, who will you hold responsible for it? If the data center goes down, who is responsible for it?
Hmm.
So that is my take, that it would look a little different. We'll be managing something else. Maybe it will not be a CI/CD pipeline. Maybe it will be the data pipelines that feeds the RAG system of the AI or the memory layer of the AI.
Hmm.
But the task would be similar. We will be trying to optimize memory. We'll be trying to optimize GPU usage, or we'll be trying to optimize that. Okay, this is more reliable. There, it's more redundancy.
Hmm.
So that's my take on it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, nowadays, token optimization is one place where I see like there will be some new roles coming up because I mean, folks who are using Claude, they know they and they understand the challenges that they're facing with tokens. I mean, they are getting finished up so quickly, and I mean, with the rise of usage of AI agents, AI tools, this is going to be a very interesting space. So yes, I definitely agree with this. And yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Pratik, for sharing so many like insights on DevOps, on remote jobs, on and in your career. And like this has been a very inspiring conversation because folks generally who are, like who come from a background like you have been, they generally feel like they can't, get opportunities in big, like in good companies, or they can't, grow their career in a good manner. But I think what you have done is nothing short of, a commendable career. I mean, it's very inspirational, and I am pretty sure like whoever is listening to your podcast, they would learn a lot, and they would also be like inspired to like try out different things and to get their goal. So with that, like we will wrap up this podcast, and yeah, thank you so much, Pratik. It was really nice
Thank
talking to
you,
you.
Nisha. Thank you for inviting me. It has been a lovely conversation. I do hope that it helps someone who is listening to it. If any one of you is listening to me right now, if you want any help, do ping me. I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. I'll try to help you as much as possible.
Yes, definitely. And I will also mention Pratik's socials in the description. So please make sure to take a look. I will also link the article that he wrote when he got the GitLab opportunity. So do make sure to check out the YouTube description. And yeah, like see you next time, everyone. So
Bye.
bye.